The Yangtze River in Anhui province is sometimes known as the Wan River. On its northern bank there's a small town called Shipai, and today it's generally believed that both Peking opera and Huangmei opera originated from an ancient folk tradition once popular in this area called Hui opera. More than 70 years ago, during the war, Peking opera and Huangmei opera, as two independent styles, were often performed on the same stage. The consummation of these two operas contributed to the theatrical performance of Huangmei opera as it gradually matured into the form we know today. It was October the 21st, 1956 in Beijing. On this fine autumn day, in one of the studios belonging to the Central Newsreel and Documentary Film Production Team, filmmakers were busy shooting a black and white documentary about a Huangmei opera called Husband and Wife Admiring the Lanterns. In this opera, Wang Xiaofang was played by Wang Xiaoliu, while Yan Fengyin played his wife. During the following Spring Festival, this 7-minute-long piece on Huangmei opera was released in theatres as part of the festive New Year documentary. Older generation opera fans found that the mini Huangmei opera adapted from Celebrating the Lantern Festival was quite different when compared with the traditional performance. Wang Xiaoliu was no longer a clown with his face painted with a white square, and the dancing of the husband and wife was more like that found in Peking opera. Wang Xiaofang was once a Peking opera actor. He worked as the director, actor and choreographer of this mini Huangmei opera. After 1953, there began to appear professional directors for Huangmei opera. Husband and Wife Admiring the Lanterns was a traditional mini Huangmei opera about Wang Xiaoliu and his wife's experience at the Lantern Festival. February the 12th, 1949 was the traditional Lantern Festival according to the lunar calendar, and the citizens of Hefei in Anhui province were celebrating it for the first time since the liberation of the city. Peking opera actor Wang Xiaofang and his wife Huangmei were among the crowds to see the lanterns at the temple of the town's deity. Not long beforehand, the Military Control Commission of Hefei had taken over Xinmin Theatre where Wang Xiaofang worked. The theatre was renamed Xinxiang Peking Opera House, and Wang Xiaofang was appointed its president. This was the genesis of the later Anhui Peking Opera Troupe. In this way, 29-year-old Wang Xiaofang started a new life in the city of Hefei. At the time, most of the northern side of the Yangtze River was already liberated. The People's Liberation Army were getting ready for the campaign to cross the river. Thousands of miles away in Beijing, the newly established municipal government began to enforce new regulations in Tianqiao. The government not only cracked down on mafia organizations in the district, but also formed new policies on the content of street performances. Back then, 21-year-old Xin Fangxia, a Peking opera actress, had just come to Beijing from Tianjin and had begun to perform in Wanshengxuan Theatre. At the same time, crosstalk master Ho Baolin began to omit much of the vulgar content from his old comedy routines and began to appear on stage again. On July the 2nd, Peking opera master Mei Lanfang was present at the First National Conference of Literary and Art Workers, and Mao Zedong came to the venue in person to offer his congratulations. 10 months after Hefei was liberated, the North Anhui Daily published a list of people's representatives from all walks of life in northern Anhui. Wang Xiaofang became one of the 3 representatives in Hefei. When New China was first established, former Anhui province was divided into 2 administrative districts, North Anhui and South Anhui, and the total population of the province was 27.86 million. The southern Anhui government was based in Wuhu, while the northern Anhui government was based in Hefei. The Anqing area was under the administration of the northern Anhui government. 3 years later, the People's Government of Anhui Province was formally established, with Hefei as the capital. At the conference, Wang Xiaofang met a Huangmei Opera artist he had worked with during the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, and that was Ding Yongquan, who had come to Hefei for the conference as the people's representative from the Anqing area. When the 2 opera artists met this time, they were both addressed as art workers.
当时我爷爷他们那一批人，当把这样子的称呼加到他们的头上的时候，他们确确实实是发自肺腑的一种高兴，一种感觉到做人的尊严。
After the conference that day, Wang Xiaofang and Ding Yongquan went to a small restaurant to catch up. At the dinner, Ding Yongquan told Wang Xiaofang about the performance of Huangmei Opera in Anqing. Anqing was liberated 3 months later than Hefei. Beginning from March the 23rd, 1949, the People's Liberation Army laid siege to Anqing via 3 routes. 1 month later, Anqing was liberated. During this period, Huangmei Opera performance was held in abeyance, and it was not resumed until the summer. After singing Huangmei Opera all his life, Ding Yongquan set up a new troupe based in Wanzhong Theatre. The first opera he chose to perform after Anqing was liberated was Pearl Pagoda. Before long, Wanzhong stage was renamed as the People's Theatre, and Ding Yongquan's troupe was renamed as the Anqing People's Theatre Troupe. This troupe included famous opera stars like Pan Zihai and Ding Cuixia, but they were desperately in need of an actor to play xiaosheng roles, or young, handsome and scholarly male roles. After talking about Huangmei Opera and Anqing, Ding Yongquan gazed at Wang Xiaofang, a man who was 28 years younger than himself, and made an unexpected offer.
丁义全发现了王少舫这个人呢，比较儒雅、大方、人高马大的，演戏又很好，而且他又能导戏、说戏，连台本戏他都能说。所以丁义全认为王少舫是个很难得的人才，于是就邀请了王少舫呢加入安庆黄梅戏剧团。
Ding Yongquan's invitation was a surprise to Wang Xiaofang, but it was understandable. Early in the Resistance War, Wang Xiaofang and Ding Yongquan had once played on the same stage in Anqing. The 2 men and their families had already become friends, and they'd been through a lot of difficulties together. By June the 10th, 1938, the midstream and downstream areas of the Yangtze River were already into the wet season. Under continuous rain, the young Wang Xiaofang followed Wang Mingxian, his stepfather and a Peking opera artist, onwards to seek refuge in Anqing. At the time, Nanjing and Wuhu were both occupied by the Japanese army. The Wangs sought refuge in the west and finally arrived at Anqing. They were hoping that they could find a troupe to work with and make some money to cover their living expenses. What they didn't expect was that on the same night, the Japanese Navy were marching upstream from Wuhu and initiating an attack on Anqing. 9 days before, Japan's Central China Expeditionary Army headquarters had ordered its Sakai detachment to speed march southward from Hefei to attack Anqing. Meanwhile, the Hata detachment was ordered to travel westward along the Yangtze River to assist the Sakai detachment. The Asahi Shimbun, following the Japanese military forces, explained Japan's Anqing strategy as follows. From Anqing Airport to Hankou as the crow flies, the distance is no more than 300 kilometers. Therefore, occupying Anqing is of important strategic value for the Air Force. At the time, many citizens of Anqing had already retreated. Most of the businesses were closed on the once prosperous commercial street. But the anti-Japanese slogans were very eye-catching. The KMT 27th Group Army stationed in Anqing had set a defence line, but it was soon broken because of the dramatic difference in power. On June the 12th, Anqing was lost to the Japanese occupation, and the KMT government was forced to move its capital of Anhui from Anqing to Lihuang County in the heart of the Dabie Mountains. Before long, Anqing became the military base for the Japanese Air Force's air raids on Wuhan. After Anqing was occupied by the Japanese army, the market was held in abeyance for 9 months. Wang Xiaofang and his family were stuck in the city, struggling to survive. In the second year after the fall of Anqing, the Japanese began to carry out a policy of appeasing the people. They somewhat loosened their control over civilians, and a few stores reluctantly reopened. Due to extreme poverty, the Huangmei artists who had sought refuge in the surrounding towns had to come back to Anqing to make a living, and Ding Yongquan and his family were among them. 2 years beforehand, Ding Yongquan and his entire family were singing Huangmei Opera in Shanghai, but after the Sohu battle broke out in Shanghai, Ding Yongquan and his family had fled back to Anqing.
我爷爷托人嘛，就通过了一些伪政府里面一些黄梅戏的这些戏迷啊、爱好者，通过他们偷偷的办了一些良民证，然后呢就分别发给了这些演员的手里，然后他们也是分期分批的这样子就混进城里，然后再聚合的。
In order to make a living, the Ding and Wang families gathered together with other Peking opera and Huangmei opera artists and began to perform in Wanzhong Theatre on Wuyue Street, which had been vacant for a long time. And they performed on the same stage, a Peking opera performance followed by a Huangmei opera. This was the famous Consummation of Peking opera and Huangmei opera. At the time, the artists called this a mix of two pots, and Wang Xiaofang was just 18 years old. In the beginning, the two types of operas were performed on the same stage. The performance opened with mini Huangmei operas and closed with a feature Peking opera. However, after a few days, they noticed that much of the audience left after the mini Huangmei operas were over, and that the Peking opera performers were left with very few people in the theatre. So they had to change their strategy by opening with Peking opera and closing with Huangmei opera. It was through this experience that Wang Xiaofang began to know more about the Huangmei tradition.
他从1933年第一次在京剧半山中的演出，住在安溪的南洋旅馆，借助的那个西艺大节，所学的第一段唱的黄梅调就是《苦媳妇自叹》。他为什么去学它？他又感到它的韵律，它的旋律特别好听，而且感到呢，所反映的内容呢，是写了一个苦媳妇早起怎么样然后起来做事，然后到晚上捞不到休息，那非常凄苦的生活，他感到非常生活，就是说出了人的好像一种心声一样。他对这很感兴趣，所以他第一次就学了这个戏。
大禹知人莫慌忙，
With his exposure to Huangmei Opera, Wang Xiaofang learned to sing a few of them and sometimes appear in some Huangmei operas on stage. The first he appeared in was The Heavenly Match, and he played the fairy maiden Argier. Wearing the costume and makeup of a young girl, he appeared in the scene The Magpie Bridge and sang 4 verses. During the hard times, the Dings and the Wangs built an extraordinary friendship. That year, Ding Yongquan's son Ding Ziqian was only 12 years old, and under the instruction of Wang Mingshan, Wang Xiaofang's stepfather, he began to learn to sing the Peking opera Give His Son a Lecture. Over the next few years, Ding Ziqian lived together with the Wangs. In the eyes of the young boy, Wang Xiaofang looked more beautiful when playing the fairy maiden Argier than the Huangmei opera actors. Despite the extraordinary friendship between the two families, Wang Xiaofang, already head of the Xinjiang Peking opera troupe in Hefei, didn't accept Ding Yongquan's offer straight away. The decision to quit Peking opera and learn to sing Huangmei opera wasn't an easy one to make. Later, the Xinjiang Peking opera troupe was reformed as the Anhui Provincial Peking Opera Troupe. The first winter after Anhui was liberated, Wang Xiaofang took a long-distance bus to Anqing on a tour. At the time, there were nearly 2,088 kilometers of road built in Anhui province, but there was not a single road that was available despite the weather. Bus services were not available in at least 42 counties. It had taken an entire day to travel by bus from Hefei to Anqing. Wang Xiaofang arrived in Anqing in the winter. He immediately put up posters for performances of Peking opera, his program list including Xiao He Chasing Han Xin in the Moonlight, Farewell My Concubine, and A Meeting of Heroes. Wang Xiaofang played Xiao He, Yu Ji, and Zhou Yu. However, the box office takings were not very good. Anqing people preferred Huangmei opera in the Anqing dialect as before. When Wang Xiaofang left Anqing, he had not even earned enough money for the journey. In the end, he had to borrow money for travel from Ding Yongquan. Ding Yongquan took the opportunity to persuade him to switch from Peking opera to Huangmei opera.
但是王少芳来借钱的时候呢，我的外公就告诉他，就劝他，你有黄梅戏演唱的基础，而且黄梅戏的这些观众们都认可你，都欢迎你。
我爷爷讲少芳，因为你呢，这个一家在京剧这个圈子里，对吧？颠沛流离吧，到处跑码头，东奔西跑的，这个也很辛苦。有时候呢，这个因为京剧的班社比较多，竞争力也比较大，可能遇到的困难呢会更多一些。这个用这个方面来打动王少芳。
Just as Ding Yongquan had observed, Wang Xiaofang had indeed lived a vagabond life since he was a child. At the time, he also desired to settle down and have a peaceful life. When Ding Yongquan invited him to join his troupe for a second time, he hesitated, but he agreed to talk with his wife about it. Wang Xiaofang began to learn to sing Peking opera from a very early age, so it was difficult for him to put an end to a career as a Peking opera singer that he had pursued for nearly 20 years. 29 years before, on the 30th day of the 8th month by the lunar calendar, Wang Xiaofang was born in Nanjing. His father was Wang Zonghui, a Laoshang actor in Peking opera. When Wang Xiaofang was just 9 years old, his stepfather Wang Mingshan took him to Shanghai, and he began to learn to sing Peking opera under the instruction of his master Bao Xiaolin. In the third month of 1933 by the lunar calendar, the owner of Wanzhong Theatre in Anqing came to Nanjing to search for famous actors. He intended to invite a Hua Dan actor from the Peking opera tradition who lived right next door to the Wangs, but he coincidentally ran into Wang Xiaofang while he was rehearsing. The owner of Wanzhong Theatre liked Wang Xiaofang so much that he immediately made him an offer with a salary of 80 yuan per month. At the time, the monthly salary for an average worker was about 20 yuan in Nanjing, and the salary level in Anqing was even lower. From that time, Wang Xiaofang began to perform Peking opera with troops along the Yangtze River, but his base was in Anqing. For his excellent performance as Judge Bao in A Leopard Cat for a Crowned Prince, he was nicknamed Young Judge Bao of Southern China. 1 year later, Wang Xiaofang's monthly salary was raised to 180 yuan, approximately the same as that of top film stars. During the War of Resistance, Wang Xiaofang and Ding Yongquan got to perform on the same stage, and so he took the opportunity to learn to sing Huangmei Opera. In the later years of the war, the box office takings of Peking opera were not as good as those of Huangmei Opera. To make a living, he began to sing Peking opera in the style of Huangmei song. This was, in effect, a reform of the traditional mini.
黄梅戏原来只用锣鼓伴奏的时候啊，叫做黄梅戏10调9不同，各唱各的板，各唱各的音。有修养的演员能保持在一个调里面，这个没有修养的演员呢，叫做张口调，他们叫扎口调，就是张嘴张口是什么调就是什么调，说这样的不好听。这个后来王少芳来唱呢，他很不习惯，他也找不到调，后来就把京胡那个人叫小喜子，京胡来给他伴奏，到他唱了就给他京胡啊跟着腔走，叫拖他的腔。
He'd never expected that such a small change would reform the entire style of the accompaniment for Huangmei opera. Later, Wang Xiaofang replaced the jinghu with other string instruments, an erhu, and sometimes a reformed gaohu. Wang Xiaofang's change of accompaniment made big news in Anqing City. People swarmed into the theatre to listen to Huangmei opera with string accompaniment. Wang Xiaofang thus made his name in Huangmei opera. But in point of fact, Wang Xiaofang was not the first to use string accompaniment in this art form. At the end of the Qing dynasty and the beginning of the Republic of China, with the decline of Hui opera, Huangmei opera troupes hired qin players from the Hui tradition. By the mid-1930s, under the influence of the Yang opera and the Ping opera, they also used the hu qin to set the tune for the singers. But these experiments were sporadic. Only when Wang Xiaofang made his changes did the audience feel something different from the string accompaniment of Huangmei opera.
黄梅戏啊，它是从山歌小戏、山歌小调、灯会发展过来的，对吧？从这个音乐上来说，它是属于五声音阶， 什么叫五声音阶呢？叫哆来咪嗦拉，这5个音，哎，就是没有现在我们大家唱的哆来咪发嗦拉西，就缺了2个半音，一个发，一个西。王少芳先生因为他是唱京剧的，京剧这7个音都是有的，对不对？因为他要唱黄梅戏的时候，你比喻黄梅戏，谈到他的音乐贡献，他的声腔创造。假如他要唱一个导板，黄梅戏过去没有导板，大家比较熟悉的天仙配，董允一出来，寒背人泪往前走。因为从戏剧界来说，这个发是个苦音，从戏剧含量来说叫苦音，就比较悲。哎，如果是往前走，这发人民发，他就那种董允死了父亲要去给人家卖身为奴的感情就出来了。
The merging of Peking opera and Huangmei opera not only changed the musical style of Huangmei opera, but also introduced court stories commonly seen in Peking opera to Huangmei opera. Because of this blending of Huangmei opera and Peking opera during the war, Wang Xiaofang was very fond of this minor country operatic style. When Ding Yongquan invited him to switch to Huangmei opera for a second time, he agreed to take it under serious consideration. One night in early 1950, during the coldest season in Hefei, Wang Xiaofang, now a father of 3, sat with his wife discussing what would be better for the future of their family. Wang Xiaofang was worried that if he agreed to switch to Huangmei opera, his wife might lose opportunities to perform in Peking opera circles, even though she was a good actress for wudan roles, female roles featuring martial arts. Moreover, his success in Huangmei opera was far from guaranteed. At the time, Huangmei opera was just a minor folk opera in Anhui province. Wang Xiaofang wavered between both choices, but before long, Ding Yongquan came to see Wang Xiaofang again, and for the 3rd time, he proposed that the young man switch from Peking opera to Huangmei opera. This time, Ding Yongquan was not alone. He invited Liu Fangsong, chairman of the Anqing Federation of Literature and Art, to help him to convince Wang Xiaofang. On behalf of the Federation, Liu Fangsong agreed to help Wang Xiaofang with the practical barriers in his work and life. Because of Ding Yongquan's persistence and Wang Xiaofang's own affection for Huangmei opera, he finally decided to switch styles. However, many held negative views about his decision.
因为黄梅戏嘛是地方小戏，京剧嘛就是大戏，啊，所以这个呢，就有人就说他是从那个米罗跳到那个坎罗里面去了。
还有一种观点，好像混不下去了，京剧唱不了，来唱地方戏了。
其中呢，我感觉到最严重的就是说他来，就是你从小9岁学习京剧，现在突然一下改成黄梅戏了，这是一种欺师灭祖的行为。我当时就问他了，我那师傅你是怎么回答这些的呢？他就跟我讲了，京剧、黄梅戏不都是戏吗？而且它是同宗同祖，我们那个后台不都拜一个老郎吗？
In January 1950, while freezing winter winds were howling over the Yangtze River outside Anqing City, Wang Xiaofang and his wife, Huangmei, took their 3 young daughters and left Hefei by ship, traveling en route through Wuhu, and finally arriving at the dock outside Anqing. The tolling of the bells from Yingjiang Temple by the river seemed to welcome their arrival. Before long, Wang Xiaofang formally joined the People's Huangmei Opera troupe that Ding Yongquan worked for. Together with his brother Wang Xiaotong and his sister Wang Xiaomei, he began to learn to sing Huangmei Opera. His brothers and sisters all quit Peking Opera and joined him in singing Huangmei Opera. 5 years later, Wang Xiaomei appeared in the film The Heavenly Match as the good-hearted fairy maiden Da Jie. After Wang Xiaofang and his family moved to Anqing, they lived in Building 11 of Xuan Garden, and Ding Yongquan and his family lived in the same building. At the time, most private Huangmei opera troupes in Anqing became government-managed opera troupes with government funding. Theatres and opera troupes were commonly merged together. Wang Xiaofang became a lead actor and head of the People's Opera Troupe.
王少芳进入民众以后，他就采取这种价票制。原来民众剧院呢，买票是1毛5一张票。我王少芳参加演出的时候就加5分，我只拿这个价票的钱。这样的话呢，有800个座位，估计当时王少芳的月收入呢，可以到800到1000块钱。哎，当时的生活费呢，每人每月10块钱就可以了。
According to incomplete statistics, from 1950 to 1953, the People's Opera Troupe not only performed traditional Huangmei operas, but also performed Corrupted Official and The Evil Mafia and Hatred as Deep as the Ocean to promote land reform. They also performed Consummation of Xiao Arhei and New Affairs, New Solutions to promote the law of consummation. In just over 3 years, they gave over 2,820 performances before a total audience of 2.35 million people. Their per-ticket income was impressive. In 1954, the Anhui Cultural Bureau based in Hefei transferred Wang Xiaofang to the newly established Anhui Huangmei Opera Troupe, and his monthly salary was 360 yuan. In the December of that year, Hefei's Jianghuai Theatre was completed and put to use. This theatre of 3,590 square meters was a government investment, and it was Anhui's first grand theatre in the traditional Chinese style. It was in this new theatre that Wang Xiaofang gradually became the most famous Huangmei opera actor in Anhui, and even the whole of China.
老婆儿，老婆儿，那个老姐走了。
走着我也不看。
耶，等来着，等来着，等来着。
In the later years of his career, Wang Xiaofang continuously applied the strict management and training methods of Peking opera to Huangmei opera. For this reason, many elements of Peking opera can be seen in the costumes, dancing, and singing of Huangmei opera. As Wang Xiaofang often said, Huangmei opera has absorbed nutrition from many operatic traditions.